All right. Questions, my friends. Questions.
I have a question about that.
Yep.
Um, so how to put it into words. I mean, we're here to be many different things. Yes, we can be sisters and daughters and wives and mothers and, you know, all of that. But I also think that we're here because we have gifts to give humanity. And I think
Hmm.
sometimes we get caught up in relationships and forget who we are. And we spend all our time in trying to find relationships and trying to stay in them and be healthy. And then we miss why we were truly here. And that is to give our gifts to humanity. So, but why does it have to be so dark?
Well, it's dark for
And
some people.
yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it has to be dark, but it's dark for some people.
Right.
Yeah, that's dark for me. But
Yeah.
no, it's not it's as equally beautiful as it is dark. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So the dark shit is also kind of cool, you know. It sounds nice. But but it's just as unreal as the angelic stuff. But yeah, some people have that kind of shamanic stuff going on, that specific configuration. But ultimately, it is for this bodhisattva, compassion and sharing your gifts with other people. It's just that for some people, that process of becoming the you that is really able to do that, that is really able to express that, can be quite tumultuous, to say the least. But no, I mean, it's dark because it was dark for me. It doesn't mean it's dark for everyone. It's like it's dark for me in that sense, but for other people, like their suffering and their angst may actually be more intense. It doesn't have the same like crazy dancing on skulls type stuff that I'm describing, but that lostness and that confusion and that pain is the same. I mean, it just manifests in a different way. It manifests just very viscerally for people that have that kind of like visionary stream or that visionary capacity. But it's not that way for everybody by any means. Yeah, it's just like that in the classic text, the Bhagavad Gita. It was like that in my life or in my unfolding. But as you all know, like I'm just this fat smiling guy, and it's all good. So, you know,
Well, we are so grateful, Ryan, that you have decided to share your gifts because it really is, there are no words. I mean, some of the things you said tonight, it's big. It's really big, and it's kind of fascinating as I go through my life and I meet so many people and they don't even think about, or they don't even know why they're on this planet, other
yeah,
than to procreate. And and not that that's wrong. It's
right. It's
not
not.
wrong.
Yeah,
Um, but it's so much bigger, and yeah, it's interesting to see. Anyways,
the
thank you.
concern of the concern of most people literally is like you go to school,
Hmm.
you get married, you make some love, you make some kids,
Yeah.
you work, and you
Buy a
die.
house.
Like
Yeah.
like that's life for most people, and that is perfectly fine. That's actually what a lot of people sign up for. They sign up to like forget. Like that's the whole reason for being here. It's like, yeah, man. Like on the other side, I'm like in multiple places in space time, and I just wanted a break. Like I just wanted to come here and like not be everything for a bit. I'm sure
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sure that is real. I wouldn't be surprised. it's like
Okay.
it's like, hey, there's this planet out there called Earth, and there's this thing where like you have to forget what you are in order to generate a
Right.
human consciousness. And everyone's like, dude, what, really? Like that exists? Like, yeah, guy over there's been talking about it all day. It's like, let's go check it out. So there's we don't know like the incarnational mechanics. Not everyone may be the same type of being or the same come from the same source on the other side. It's interesting. So Bob Monroe actually talks about that a lot. So you'll enjoy that when you get into far journeys. He talks about like the different ways that people end up here, and there's
Mm.
many different ways. It's really funny actually. So yeah, anyone um, who hasn't heard me mention this before, my favorite autobi- autobiographical spiritual story or account is Robert Monroe's Journeys trilogy. Like, if you think autobiography of a yogi is good, Journeys trilogy is like just phenomenal. Yeah, it's three parts. Like, first book was written in the 70s, second book was written in the 80s, and the third book was written in the 90s. And it really captures the span of this guy's out of body experiences over his whole life. And when you hear about OBEs or lucid dreams, you think, just like it's more like samsaric fun stuff. It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with realization or non-duality. But what he found was at some point he started to ask the question, what is guiding these experiences, all of these journeys and insights, this like hidden hand that is literally moving you from one dimension to another in the out of body experience. What is that? What is it? In spirituality, we always talk about the inner voice or the voice of God, the inner master, the guides. But what is it really? What is that? What is that hidden hand that is pushing you towards awakening? And what he found was incredible. We got to the bottom of that question. I literally had to pull over. I was driving, I pulled over, I stopped. It's like, oh, this is one of those moments. It's amazing. Highly recommend Robert Monroe to everyone. Yeah, I always tell everyone read Robert Monroe. Okay, so there's one question here. If you go too far off your path, is there a way back? Multiple. Are some people's lives totally forfeited? Well, I'm not omniscient, so I'm not going to pretend like I got all the answers on this one. But from what I'll give you an example. My father struggled with crystal meth and died as a result when I was 20. And he was really smart. Like, he read a book a day from like age 5 to like 52, 51. Actually read the whole library at his at the schools that he went to. So he was brilliant. And but he got into drugs, and eventually that took his life. So you would think that from the human perspective, you say all the same stuff. You're like, waste of your potential, you absolutely failed, you didn't meet your incarnational requirements, you totally have fallen off your path. That's like how we look at things, right? If a person's not being their full expression, we tend to see it as like they're wasting their potential. And in a certain sense, they are, right? But what I have seen from the contact with my father on the other side in these out of body experiences, and I don't know if this is the case for everyone. I can't say it's the case for everyone because I can only see, what's been the case for the various consciousnesses that I've had the mind meld with. There's a kind of communication and out of body experience where your consciousness literally merges with another's, and you're able to experience reality through them, like through their eyes, through their subjective structure. So when I had the mind meld with my dad, I really saw that, he went through this period of purification after his death, which would be described as hell, just to be frank. He was caught in this perpetual loop of amnesia. First, he thought his funeral was a hallucination. He just couldn't accept that he was dead. That was the first thing that was troubling. And his guides, like the higher self, they were attempting to get to him, like to help him enter the light and move on to the next place. But because of um, the consciousness suppressing effects of all the drugs that he was doing and the panic that he was in, he wasn't actually able to hear that guiding intelligence. He wasn't able to perceive the guides, even though they were there. Couldn't see them. It's like trapped in a nightmare. And this nightmare kept playing out where, he just couldn't wake up out of this state where he was like using the drugs. And, then he'd start trying to talk to me and trying to talk to my mom and trying to talk to my sister. And then it would start to like set in. It's like, something's not right here. Something's not right here. Like the clarity's starting to turn on, and then bang, like a tape loop, rewind to the beginning, right in front of the screen, smoking the meth again, again and again and again and again, until that karma was like purified, and he was able to see the guides and like wake up out of the nightmare, out of the hungry ghost realm. That's what it is. That the addiction puts you in this afterlife state where you're just craving the drug, and then you're getting the fix, and then you're living out the fix, and then it's just like reiterations and configurations of the same thing. And once that was all purified, and he was able to be received by his higher self and the beings that were attempting to help him, then he became this like, good to see you, son. I exist outside time kind of guy. Like, you're doing a great job. And I've learned a lot from you just observing how you function in these other levels. And wow, I'm so proud of what you've become. So now we have a very, incredible relationship. I mean, we did too when he was alive, but this kind of opening, you wouldn't have thought like from the life that he lived, maybe that he would have ended up in this kind of um, consciousness that is developing mastery. Maybe some of us have that view that like ultimately you do end up somewhere that is really profound and really incredible, and where you're able to continue your learning and your awakening and all of this. But I wasn't sure. So the fact that he still that he ended up okay, it showed me that things aren't what they seem, and we can't always judge something by how it appears. It may be the case that the person who's completely lost their mind, may be the case that that's exactly what was destined for them. That's exactly what they decided on. But for whatever reason, that particular mode or that particular configuration is helping other parts of them elsewhere in time. That is also the major insight that I discovered as a result of all of this work, all this exploration. I found that everything that you do or don't do is part of an energy, part of an information that literally gets like uploaded into this higher self superstructure and distributed to other parts of yourself in time, other parts of yourself in the incarnational cycle. And that was revealed in one of the past life recalls where I appeared in this uh, woman's body. I think she was like from the 70s, looked like the 70s. And the choice point that I arrived in was um, she had to leave her husband and take the kid because it wasn't safe for her and the daughter to be there anymore. Yeah, he was an alcoholic. He had some kind of problem. And this choice point was that she kept like getting to the door, about to walk out the door, couldn't walk out the door. And that would happen again and again and again until one day she has the kid. She walks out the door, puts the kid in the car, goes to grandma, disappears from from the husband. So the moment she walked out the door, and that it was a for real walking out of the door, this golden energy shot up her silver cord or shot up her spiritual cord, and that energetic, that formation was then uploaded into this higher consciousness superstructure, and it was helping other parts of her in the incarnational cluster or in her past parallel future grouping of incarnations. From that level, it's outside of time as we experience it here. So I saw that very clearly. The things that you do, the challenges that you face, and the things that you overcome and learn, they help parts of you that you don't even know about. Because you is a much larger thing than just this physical incarnation here. It's a lot more than just this particular chapter. Like your life, your life reincarnation here is like one chapter. But you may be part of a book that, it's pretty long, has a lot of chapters. So what's happening is that there's this movement between the events that occur in time in this chapter and the events that are occurring in other chapters, whether for good, whether positively or negatively. So that was one of the things that was revealed. Oh, David, you had a question. Sorry,
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Ryan. That was,
I left you on a hand up for like half an hour.
of course you did. No, it's all good. It's all good. Your transmission, yeah, it hit home, brother. So that was fire. Um, my question, but I want to stay in the present, and this will be relevant to my question. Yeah, totally shamanic. Um, what you're talking about, past, present, future. Shape shifting, going into these different timelines. Of course, the Miracles talks about it as well, um, which is to say, like you always preach, this is a configuration of mind. So I'm less wedded to the narrative of how one comes to understand this, and more interested in the experience. That's what my meditation. Just again, be with the experience, observe, move with it. So. Uh, but my experience has been sort of similar. These sort of shamanic. I do a lot of plant medicine, as you know,
Right.
and um, wow, just your share. So my question is how would one know that? And maybe it's irrelevant at the end of the day because it goes back to, like you said, that inner guru, that intuition, uh, higher self, or still small voice of God. But even then, that could be, like you said, the devil or Satan. But you did say something that really knocked me out, which is like the crazy wisdom that I want to see your decision to leave Alejandra as a mistake. Again, this is my configuration. I'm a parent as well, and say, what are you doing? And uh, but then, as you said, in leaving, you didn't succumb to the devil, which is to certain ears crazy wisdom, right? And then your father, Craig's meth addiction, like Trumka's crazy wisdom. And from a certain vector, certainly, again, as a parent, I could judge that. As someone who comes from addiction and judges myself, can certainly judge another parent using. Uh, and when I heard you say that dream, I heard it with new ears tonight. I wondered to myself, was that a past life configuration for you and your mother, in which your mother left your father? Um, all of which is to say, it's all perfect, no matter which timeline we jump into, because it's all a manifestation, like you said, of God's will. But my question is how do we know? So, for
Yeah, it's
instance,
a great question.
all that brouhaha on ATR, I find it fascinating, truly.
Yeah, yeah.
Bunch of awakened people
I
getting
think,
caught up in the drama of samsara. It's just brilliant. It's beautiful. It's such a
yeah, it
great,
is. It's hilarious.
such a great lesson, right? You can't choreograph that. It's like Donald Trump's reality show. But which is all to say, yeah, I mean, maybe the question's kind of moot, but this goes back
No,
to
well,
my
it's an important question. We want to not, like I do. It's possible, right, that everything I've said is wrong. It's possible. It's possible. I have to accept that it's all wrong, or that it's like it's possible that, like, it doesn't seem possible that awakening is a delusion, because the experiential field is completely awakened. It wasn't like this before, you know for the 27 years I lived, or 28 years that I lived, it was nothing like this. Now it's permanently like this. So, but when it comes to the conclusions that you make about experiences, that's something to always be careful about. Like, I have conclusions, right? Like, I have what I think is the case, but those are just inferences. They're ultimately inferences, and I know that. So there's always a difference between the interpretation of psychic data and the actual experience, or the actual data. And it's important not to mix the two, and to really be clear in your own mind. Dude, being grounded in reality is essential. Like, you can't just have all of these experiences and think that you're the chosen one, and that, like, everything that you're being told is true. You don't know if it's true. All you know is that it happened. So you can tell and reveal what happened, but the level of uh, conviction that people have in these experiences, I think, can be a problem. Like, I'm not convinced. Like, I don't have convictions. Everything that I've told you, like, it's possible that it's wrong. It's possible that I'm wrong. It's like, it could be wrong. I could be wrong. You know, everything about everything. So my consciousness is very flexible, in the sense that I'm not in need of conviction. Like, I don't need to be right about any of this. I just tell you what happened to me. But with psychic data, I mean, one of the things that I do when I've given psychic information to people is that I just tell them, hey, this is just what I'm seeing. I don't know if it's really the case or not, but this is what I'm seeing. So take it or leave it. Um, but yeah, the thing though is that, like, there's a demarcation point between your initial experiences that are unclear, and the experiences that happen later that are super clear. So in the beginning, when you're starting to have OBEs, you have all this weird, like, hallucinatory phenomena, as you're leaving the physical body or as you're transitioning out of the physical body. And a lot of strange stuff happens there that is not, um, they can be like projections of your own consciousness. So, for example, for me, when I had my first out of body experience, um, like a shadow appeared in the corner of the room, and it scared the living daylights out of me. I was terrified of this thing. I screamed so loud, the whole experience shut off, And all my friends at school were like, "Oh, there's a demon in your house and all this stuff." And yeah, fortunately, I didn't listen to them because I was more like an atheist, agnostic. So I was just gonna believe whatever the hell people say about this. And I went online, and Robert Bruce, the author of Astral Dynamics, he said that this is an extremely common experience. It's actually called the sleep paralysis demon, and it's a test from your higher self. And I was like, test from the higher self, okay. And he's like, yeah, you just proceed with the exit, and the shadow disappears. And I was like, for some reason, I was crazy enough to be like, I'll give that a shot. So I proceed with the exit again to leave the physical body, and vibrations come, all the crazy whispers, hundreds of thousands of whispers, and the energetics are insane, and the shadow appears in the corner of the room. And I realized that when I didn't panic, the shadow stopped moving towards me. So when I was panicking, freaking out, the shadow was like moving closer. And then as soon as I like calmed down and just continued to proceed with the exit, the shadow stopped moving. So I noticed, that was interesting, that this is a thought responsive experience. And so then I proceeded with the exit, spun out of the physical body. All the darkness in the room was dispelled. It was like illuminated. It's floating above my body, and the shadow was gone. Robert Bruce was correct. It is a test from the higher self. So when I say the demons within, or like the demons in the heart, or the devil, I'm not referring to like this outside thing. I'm literally referring to your internal afflictions. Like, I'm referring to that voice of doubt, those voices of fear, those voices of hesitation within you. I'm not referring to some external tempter that is like wreaking havoc in the world. I'm saying that literally anger, greed, hatred, delusion are the rulers. Yeah, this is not like some, I'm not making a case for Satan here. I just want to be clear about that. So, the demons in the heart, right? The defilements. So, yeah, but in these initial experiences, the clarity of mind is not as strong. So there's more of a possibility to slip into dreams, or for the dreaming consciousness to enter the astral consciousness. And then you start having like weird phenomena in your OBEs. Like, you step outside and there's a bunch of chickens. And damn well there ain't no chickens out there, man. But the chickens are like the dreaming consciousness bleeding into the astral consciousness. So this whole specific field of exploration, it has like its own pitfalls that you have to look out for. So, for example, in remote viewing, the remote viewer always looks out for something called analytical overlay. So it means that when they're trying to focus on a target and gain information about that target, they have to be careful for information that's coming from their own mind stream that is interfering with the clarity of the perception regarding the target. So they actually have a name for it: analytical overlay. So they're looking for the delusion in the psychic experience and accounting for that in order to get more precise data. This is the thing with spiritual experiences too. One of the big questions we should ask is, am I making all this up? But when you start to have, like, for example, I have a Buddhist configuration, most of my training's in Buddhism. You would think that I would have all these pure land OBEs, pure land out of body experiences, that everything that I contact would look like a Buddhist deity, and that I would have all these dreams of like Tara and Mahakala and, you know, the Tibetan Buddhist pantheon, the Buddhist pantheon in general. That's not what I experienced, like, at all. You know, I mean, I had a couple of those, but most of my out of body stuff is very interdimensional, very technological. It's kind of like what the 21st century consciousness would experience in these higher planes, as opposed to, you know, seeing all these rivers of ambrosia and, you know, dancing dakinis. Dakini is a female Tibetan Buddhist goddess, and, you know, all this stuff. I don't experience much of that in these explorations in these levels. So, but yeah,
So how do you know if you're going astray though? So with remote viewing, there seems to be a technique, right? So you know when your subjectivity is overlaid onto the objective field.
yeah,
With us, when we're doing these practices, how do we know? I mean, that it's not just a further delusion, it's not spiritual narcissism, it's not um, depersonalization, derealization. I mean, yeah, you can get training for it, but that's the subtlety of this sort of deception, right? It's uh,
yeah,
like we said about Ajahn Bua, it's like at a certain point, you're still perceiving the field with an orientation that ultimately is that's the predicament. So how do we catch that? I mean, is it with a teacher? Is it with how do we catch it?
yeah. Like in shamanic training, you explore these things with a teacher, right? So the teacher helps you. The teacher can help you distinguish between, you know, the voice of your own intuition and the voice of the spirits, for example, or the voices of the various ancestors. But this is a really important question. You know, how do you know it's your higher self versus some, you know, other spirit that has its own existence? For example, the way to at least each thing has to be taken like case by case. Like it doesn't work to just say like, you know, there's a blanket rule for this. So like for example, with delineating specifically between the higher self and beings that are not, they're not of your particular matrix, they're external, like the way that you and I have our own particular existences. It's the same way with communication with entities. There are exploration of these levels. There are beings that come to you that are literally other versions of you in time and on other planes. And then there's beings that you experience that are not. So the difference between the ones that are part of your matrix and the ones that are part of another matrix, mind body matrix, is that the ones that are part of your system are able to phase you into other dimensions. And they're able to elevate your consciousness in a very wholesome and beneficial way, like for your own evolution. It is possible for like you to receive an initiation from a spirit in some external system, and if you make a, you know, agreement with that spirit, then it can teach you certain things. But that's all like you've opened the door for that, and you have invited that in to your life. This is happening on its own. Like when the higher self and the inner guides actually appear to you, it's not like you had to, you know, receive that from someone else. You didn't have to receive that from any external source. It literally is coming to you through your dreams and through your own unfolding and exploration. And the main marker, in my opinion, is are the enlightenment factors increasing or are they decreasing? That's how you know if you're on track or you're starting to spin off into unuseful stuff. Because even if the experiences are difficult and they're challenging, you'll notice that there's a quality of power and a quality of increased mindfulness and peace that is beginning to grow. So the enlightenment factor should be increasing if you're on the right track. if you're on the right track, the pillar and the connection to the higher self, to the core of the intelligence that you are, is getting stronger, even if the afflictions are very intense, even if the afflictions are difficult. There's this inner alignment and intuitive sense that is present. So, um, but the challenge is initially getting to that point where that contact and that communion is very clear for you or for anyone. So if that hasn't been established yet, then that's the first thing too. That's one of the first things to establish. How can you? TWIM has a certain approach to it. Actually, they say you go into meditation, you really like let go of all craving, you let go of everything, and then you ask your mind a question, whatever it is, and then you allow the mind to answer that question. But the only way that you get a genuine answer is by not conditioning the answer. Like you actually have to drop it and not be concerned with what the outcome or what the answer is, and then that can begin to that intuition will begin to answer that question. Your mind will answer the question. So that's the way that TWIM approaches it. The surefire way to not be caught up in your experiences or not be caught up in the various explorations that you're doing is to really be clear with the amount of letting go or the release of craving that is present. The more that you crave, the more that you want to have experiences be a certain way, the more that your conscious mind will condition the experiences that you have. This is why meditation is really important, in the sense that you're letting go of craving, you're surrendering, you're accepting. All of that purifies your consciousness to such an extent that when these insights or when these things start to open up, it's not as much of an issue that it's conditioned by your wanting, because you've done all this meditation where you don't want as much anymore, or the wanting is not such a major element in the experiences. Yeah. But all of these systems have their own training. They have their own training methods. So like if you're in a shamanic tradition and you start doing these explorations, the shaman that is teaching you is the one that would say, hey, turn left, turn right. That's a dead end. That's a pocket that's not going to get you anywhere. Because they have their own lineage or their own spirits that they're communicating with that are plugged in or that are from the other side, and that are also corroborating what that particular person is going through or what you're going through or doing. So that's the utility of that, and why generally, I mean, I think OBEs are okay, lucid dreaming is okay, because that's all your own superstructure, really. Like lucid dreaming is literally your own dreamscape. It's your own mind, your own dreaming consciousness. And OBE, once you exit, the earth plane, you basically pop into these deeper layers of what you are. So that's not an issue. But with plant medicine, you're inducting this massive amount of energy into the system. And I think it's really, you have to be more careful. Yeah. You have to be more careful because the opening is really huge. And I think the shaman that is facilitating it or that you're working with is very important. I don't know how many Western, maybe not even Western, but just shamans in general that are offering this stuff. Like how many of them can actually see the ancestors, actually see the spirits? I hope that most of them can, but it's hard to tell. So, yeah, it's hard to tell.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, question was that expectation issue is something I'm fighting right now. I'm trying just to be open, but it's so hard not to automatically analyze. Yeah. Um, So the thing that can be done about that is to take the expectation as the object of your meditative investigation, the object of your attention. So you can see how the expectation is actually subtle it's a subtle mental formation that's present one moment, present, and then it disappears. Goes back again, present, disappears. So this kind of thing can come up. Expectation is like an actual aspect of experience. It really is this like mental formation that you can sense, and that you can sense when it's there. You can sense when it's not there. So I would take that. I would take the expectation, and I would take the um, tendency to analyze, like, both of those things as your objects of practice, like for your shadow work, essentially. Really look into and feel the expectation, notice it as a mental formation, and notice this, like, behind the analysis is this need to analyze. You know what I mean? Like, there's this part of your mind as a formation that needs to look into something, that needs to, pick it apart. So you just, yeah, exactly. So you just look at that formation and become more familiar, become more intimate with it. Yeah, look at the thing directly, and just begin to investigate that. Yeah. Damien, Damien, you had a question?
Hi, thanks, Ryan. Thanks very much for the talk. I really enjoyed it. It was yeah, it was really beautiful. A, a couple times you used the word courageous, and you spoke about that experience of in the corner of the bedroom you saw something, then you read something in a book, and you're able to relax the next time it happened. Um, Not sure if you remember, you're probably corresponding with a lot of people, but I've shared an experience with you like the last sort of couple of weeks. So I have this fear that comes up during meditation, and it's experience of rapid expansion. And it's kind of marked with a little bit like, it's like I'm scared that I'm not going to exist. Um, and I get quite fearful, and the whole thing's collapsed. You did send me a book, but I haven't read it yet. Um, but I just wanted to ask you about that, like this sensation of rapid expansion. It's not like it's a bad feeling, and it's not like it's a really good feeling either. But it just kind of takes me over, and I get very scared that I'm just
Yeah.
going to like not exist. And the fear just comes in so quickly. Then when the fear comes in, it collapses. Um, and it's been going on for a few years now, but it's happening a lot more in frequency, especially like the last few months. Um, and then just the last 2 nights, it's happened twice when I've just woken up during the night, this sensation of like this, and then I just get scared and I collapse again.
Yep.
And I'm not really sure what to do.
Yeah. So this type of, um, just to say, this is not an uncommon thing. So,
Mm,
like, people who practice Theravada meditation, it's common for some people that when they get right to the edge of cessation, like right to the point where the mind is about to vanish, there's this huge contraction that happens. And it's really the biological response to survive. Like, that is
yeah.
actually what is being activated by the intensity of this particular experience, and everything that you're going through. So what will happen is the awakening process, it will consciousness will bring you to this door again and again and again and again and again and again and again, until you really work until you've sufficiently worked with the fear to the extent that you're able to let go enough. Like,
Mm,
it doesn't even need to be like a complete, like, total abandon, freaking jump into the void, die sort of thing, but just like being able to relax and let go enough despite the fear, when the expansion is happening. And of course, I'm saying this from my perspective. You're probably thinking like, dude, you don't understand. That shit is wild. I'm like, you know, I'm about to wink out of existence. I don't know if I'm ever coming back. Um, when I had my first, uh, when I had my first cessation, that actually wasn't the cessation. It was when the past life knowledge arose, and I was confronted with the first screen. The first thing that came up right as I was about to walk through that screen and into that woman's body was, if I walk through this screen, will I disappear from here forever? That was a real fear. Like, it was so real. It was so real that I couldn't tell if I would just vanish from the life that I knew here completely and just enter another reality permanently. Right. So I think I recommended for you the feeding your demons process, but you could see this as like your yoga right now is that fear, like is that hesitation, like actually really dedicate and put your attention on that particular resistance. It's just that you don't want to die, right? And like you're being called to accept death. That's really what is happening. You know, you'll be brought to the door again and again and again, and you'll be asked, do or die. You know, like die or walk back, die or walk back. It's up to you. You know, you're obviously you're able to shut this whole thing down, or like the fear comes up and you know it all stops. So there's still the element of control, but what is being beckoned forth is the release of the control and the release of the concern for the continuity of your existence. And I know that sounds insane. Like, how could you not be concerned about the continuity of your existence? But the truth is, you've been meditating for a very, very, very long time, and you're lucky that the door comes to you. Actually, you're very fortunate that that's the case, because most people have to go find the door. The door is showing up in your consciousness. So I think you're just being called to let go at the deepest level you've ever let go of, or you've ever let go, you know, up to this point. And yeah, dissolution is very difficult. Dissolution is difficult. Jumping into the abyss is difficult. Not knowing if you're going to wake up from this experience is insanely, it's just, you can't even put words on how tough that is, right? But that's clearly what you're being called to do, is to let go.
Yeah, it very much. I feel like I just need to let go of control.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's quite funny as well. I think I lead my personal life in a similar way, where I don't really live life to the fullest on this kind of day-to-day type level. Like I experience quite a lot of fear, and I think it's quite reflective of like this meditation experience I'm having as well.
Yeah, exactly. What's in the outer will be reflected in the inner. And I just want to say, like, on the other side of that fear is bliss. You know, like once you've worked through this enough to be able to surrender and let this go, you know, you'll realize that it wasn't anything to be afraid of. You know, like it's very, you're not going to die, right? Like unless you have some kind of underlying health condition that, you know, I don't know about, that could like go off like a time bomb at any moment. These expansions in consciousness are not going to kill you. You know, it doesn't, nothing that happens in a cessation will necessitate the stopping of your heart. Nothing that happens in an expansion of consciousness will necessitate the stopping of your heart. Like your heart's going to keep beating, even if there's like the expansion happens and you lose consciousness eventually, like it comes back online. Even if you did lose consciousness, as soon as you wouldn't remember it anyway. So that's the thing with cessation. You don't recall what happens. It's a gap in memory. Like conscious turns off, turns back on. But what you could be going through could be something different. It could be like an expansion into cosmic consciousness or into the formless states, and you know your body's just holding on. You know, the part of you that is attached to the body is holding on. So work through that, and yeah, I think you'll be fine. So you and I will be in communication, and I'll give you more personalized advice. Okay,
All right, great. Thanks very much, Ryan. Really appreciate it.
you got it, James.
And I was wondering, do you think that deja vu is related to knowledge and conversation? Like maybe
Yeah,
in some
yeah, it
in
could
some
be.
dreams, yeah,
Yeah,
like
it
maybe
could
in
be.
some dreams we like approach that space and that clarity, and then we forget about it, and then when it happens in waking life, we're like, oh yeah, I definitely saw this before.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I'm not an expert on deja vu, right? But one of the things with deja vu is that um, your higher self is outside time. Like you at this deeper level is outside time, and the part of you that is inside time is this. So what happens through dreams is that information from the non-local is able to bleed into the local. So information from that um, information from the higher self level, where like past, present, future, all of this like happening simultaneously, yet it's still navigatable somehow. There's data streams. There's like information bits like pop out of that somehow into these more coarse levels, like our dreaming consciousness. So that's how you're able to dream of something before it happens. It's because there's a part of your consciousness that is already there in the future, or there in that reality that you're able to get um, uh, information that you weren't, or you're not ordinarily able to access. So, for example, like let's say I'm dreaming and I have a dream about a friend, and the friend had some kind of car accident or whatever that they didn't tell me about. So it's actually indicative of our deeper levels of consciousness being distributed non-locally. Like how is it possible to dream of an event that happened in a completely different place to a completely different person in space time? The other way too is that like the entities or spirits can actually communicate this information, or they can like put thought forms in your dreams so that you get the psychic data. So that's definitely possible. But yeah, I don't know about all instances of deja vu, but definitely certain ones. I mean, for me, I've literally like walked into a room, or I actually have like a precognitive dream that I have the exact like timestamp for, because I posted it in the group chat. Like, I posted it in the group chat 3 years ago or something like that, and I described it like, hey, there's this mall, whatever, and it's like empty, and I'm looking at it like from this vantage point. And when I went to India in February, I was right in front of that mall. Like that was the mall in the dream, minus the cars. Like that was the only difference. So your mind really is non-local. It's able to exist in multiple places and places and time, but the higher self level is really like functioning in that capacity. Like we have non-local experiences, right? But like these deeper layers, they're not having non-local experiences. They're literally non-local. They're literally experiencing multiple simulations, multiple incarnations simultaneously. In my case, it seemed like several thousand incarnations simultaneously. So imagine playing, like we play one video game, right? Single player, video game. So imagine 100,000 video games all at once. Like, it requires a supercomputer consciousness, basically, to do that. So that's pretty much what we're dealing with. So when Arjuna appears to Krishna, he's like, I am the Lord of the universe. I am in the heart of all beings. Like he wasn't being metaphorical. like, like he wasn't kidding when he said that, Like, literally he's in the heart of all beings. Like literally your consciousness is everywhere, everything. So Wames?
Hi, yeah, sorry, it's Willie. Willie
Willie.
Ames.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just kind of jumped online and guys kind of talking about something that's kind of near and dear to me. Because I often do have kind of dreams that are kind of future dreams, and often like I'll have a dream, and it happens exactly like you're saying, timestamp wise. It actually happens. A couple of times my mind with awareness practice, kind of like I can kind of catch up. Like I can dream of me opening a door. Sometimes my awareness gets to me to that point where I match the dream, and it seems at times like my mind gets fuzzy. Like I still do that act, and it seems almost out of my ability to stop from doing that act. And I've caught that happening a couple of times. So it's more of just a comment of it, but it's very it happens to me often enough. I'm like oh, I caught like right before this happened, and I couldn't change it. My mind gets fuzzy, like my awareness gets fuzzy, and then something happens, and then I go on. with my regular awareness.
You mean in the waking state or in the dream state? Sorry.
Oh, in the waking state. So in the dream state, like I'll dream that I always remember one story where I give these kids a ride in the car, and they had their bags in the back, and like I was hoping to get a ride across town. I was like, I shouldn't left them in my trunk because I had my wallet, my stuff back there, and I went to go in the back with them, but I dreamt of it, and I said, oh wait, I'm dreaming. And then as I tried to get out the car, I could not get out the car, and they did what they did. By the time I could get out the car, like they took my wallet and stuff. But that's all right. I offered as a gift to them. But it's one of the things like at that moment, I couldn't stop from happening what I dreamt of happening.
Wow. Yeah. I've had very similar experiences. I think my first like precognitive experience was so I was like
it's totally trippy. I was like,
it's so trippy. It's such a strange experience. But my first one of those was my best friend and I had a dream that my mom went into one of my drawers and like found this like stash of weed that we had. And then we both dreamed that she put it exactly in a specific trash can in a specific area of the trash can. And we all like when he came over, we talked about this. Like, yeah, I just had this really weird dream that like, all this happened. And then we went to like Taco Bell or something, and then we came back and like literally the thing was gone. We went to the right trash can. It was exactly where we saw it. We both dreamt it. It was that was crazy. It was also crazy because like we both had that same dream the night before.
Right.
Yeah. So. But yeah, thanks for sharing.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I just jumped out. I was like, oh, that's just something that's gotta. I know this one.
Yeah. Anyone else? I know we're supposed to meditate, but it's like 5:05 a.m. I'm getting pretty tired. Next week though, next Wednesday I'll be back in the States, and then it'll be like normal time. So then we can actually do our like talk in the beginning and then just the full sit. Yeah.
Ryan, sorry, just another question regarding like these sits and the recordings and things. Do you get access to them in the Discord group? And will they be like recordings of your actual talk, the questions, and then also the sit as well? because after next week, may not be able to do them all, but I'd like all the recordings if that is possible.
Yeah. So the recordings are also going to be on YouTube. So like I record them through Zoom, and then I usually post like the Zoom recording on the Discord first before I upload it to YouTube. But yeah, so the talk will be there, the Q&A, and then I don't think the meditation. I mean, I record the meditation sometimes, but I also you don't always record the meditation because I'm not saying anything. It's just like this guy walking around. So, but definitely the discussion material and the Q&A are recorded. Yeah. Yeah. Also, I'm gonna consider opening another class on the weekend to um, yeah, in order to there's a lot of new people in the European time zone, like UK and European time zone. So I'm thinking I'm probably gonna open a class like on I don't know, 10 a.m. on Sunday or something. I'll have to figure it out. But for sure now, like Wednesday is normal is just our standard meet, but likely I'll open a weekend class. So yeah. Yes, Nika, exactly. Thank you for staying awake, Nika. I know it's like 5 a.m. Fabian. I think Fabian's asleep. I'm pretty sure Fabian's asleep at this point. Oh my God, Fabian's awake. I can't believe it. What are you doing up this late, man? These ghosts of Amsterdam, dude. If you're disappointed we're not doing the meditation. Okay, so let's meditate for 20 minutes. Meditate for 20 minutes. Okay. All right, so last week you all got the mode 1, 2, or 3. And if you have your own practice, like your own mantra that you use or your own visualization that you do, by all means, go ahead. There's no specific way that you have to practice in these sessions. You can do whatever your main practice is. So, all right, so then we're going to begin. I'm just going to, I'm just going to close my eyes and then open them at 5:30 or open them in 20 minutes. And then if you all have time, I recommend that you keep sitting. But for me, I really want to, but I just don't think it's going to be much of a sit, and it's going to be more of me with my head down. So, all right, but 20 minutes we can do. All right, so I'm going to mute my microphone and then we'll begin.